I'm going to show you how to identify, attract new qualified prospects, and convert those prospects into new clients predictably. I've actually created a 5-part series, the 5 pillars to scale your business on and off LinkedIn. So get ready to take notes and enjoy the ride. Day number 1, welcome. Let's go. Over the next 5 trainings, you're going to learn how to identify, attract, convert, and onboard new clients predictably. My promise to you is if you show up, take notes, and execute on what you learn, you'll start to be able to understand who your target audience is and how to attract them to you instead of trying to reach out to them and they don't know who you are. Bad strategy. And then once you attract leads to you, qualified leads, you're going to learn how to convert those into meetings and then convert meetings into clients. Stay tuned. The next 5 days, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to have a predictable process to identify and attract new clients. Let me give you some background so you understand what I'm about to take you through. Over a decade ago, I remember working late because I wanted to be the top in sales. And I was following up with some people who weren't getting back to me. Can you relate to that? And daddy had to work, so my kids were bummed. And I remember looking at my kids' faces, Tyler and Jamie. I'm like, this ain't cutting it. Come on, Chaz. There has to be a better way. I was focusing on a tactic that was okay, was common. I was having an attitude that was tenacious, and I was doing massive activity. The percentage of the massive activity that I was doing, very small percentage. I became the top in sales, but I was exhausted. I was getting burned out. That moment, that day, when I saw my kids' faces, I thought, there's got to be a different way. I came up with leverage, and I started to better understand framing. And I'm going to talk about framing and leverage as we go through this. I began to spend less time following up with my prospects and spending more time onboarding new clients. And the formula I developed during this time, they go from massive action to having less action with leverage to onboard more clients in less time with a greater frequency was TTABS, not my hand. TTABS. Yes, my TTABS has 2 T's. And TTABS is about this. And the reason I developed it is so you can identify what isn't working quickly like that and then fix it on the fly. The first T is for tactic. That's what you do. The second T is for technique. That's how you execute that tactic. 2 separate things. That's very important. They work together. 3, attitude, your perspective. And it's not just having an attitude of tenacity like me. It's about having an attitude of serving. I call it intention to serve, the foundation for everything I do. It's not about manipulating, coercing, convincing. Sales is not about getting people to buy that thing you're trying to sell them. Sales is about helping people burst through those obstacles and helping them achieve their goals. That's it. And when you go with the intention to serve and not sell, you will attract and not repel. How does that sound? And then we're going to talk about B. That's the behaviors, the number of tactics that you're doing with the right technique and attitude should lead to a certain amount of meetings and a certain amount of clients. Now, what's missing many times is S, and that's strategy. If you don't know and understand your target audience, really know who they are, this is where many of my prospects who become my clients struggle. If you don't know and understand your prospects, your target audience, and their main need and want, if you don't know that, you can't speak to that main need and want in such a way that it builds confidence in their mind about you and your solution being able to solve their problem. That's what marketing is all about. Building confidence in their mind about you, helping become familiar with you, starting to see you as an authority so you attract them to you. I'm going to go over TTABS. I'm going to go over one letter each and every day. And today I am going to focus on tactics. To talk about tactics, I want to talk about a couple of my clients. One client in particular, they were going with cold outreaches, and with 100 cold calls, they were scheduling about 1 to 2.5 meetings, somewhere in there. Not a very good percentage, and a lot of time to schedule those meetings. And guess what? With the meetings that were scheduled, less than 50% of the people that scheduled the meetings actually showed up for that first meeting. Why? Because it's a cold outreach. They don't know you. It's a first meeting. So it's easy for someone to say yes and then say, I don't really even know them. You know what? I'd rather go out for coffee with Bob or Jill. That's exactly right. This is what we did for them. We went from having them reach out to cold traffic that didn't know who they were, to reaching out to warm, who had a sense of who they are and what they did. And their activity went down by 75%, and they sextuplet, however you would say that, 6 times what they were doing. They spent 25% as much time and got 6x the results. How cool is that? Here's what they did. When they were going with the cold outreach, they were calling them based on an ad. That's what this one company was doing. And they would call them, imagine I'm calling you, I'm with this company. I said, John, this is Chaz with ABC Company. I saw your ad. We can help with blank, what the ad was about. Click. Because everybody in that industry was doing that. Or the conversation might go a little bit longer. Now, that's cold outreach based on a demographic search. Demographics is someone in your target audience, a geographic area in your industry that you serve, unless you're industry agnostic. And it's about the size of the company and the role of the person who's the decision maker who you want to contact. 3% rule. You can Google search it. The 3% rule states this: less than 3% of people in a demographic search are ready to make buying decisions. Is that where you want to spend your time? 40% show up rate. I mean, less than 50% show up rate. People who don't want to talk to you, people that don't know you. No. So this is what we did. We took them from a demographic to a psychographic, not psycho. Okay. Demographic to psychographic. There's enough psychos in the world. We don't need to chase after them. Psychographic is this. Yes, it's all of the determining factors in the demographic, but it includes things like their motivators. I like to define it as people who have put their hand up based on your content, your event, something that's going on that what you're talking about, I'm interested in because I have a need in my business. Does that make sense? And I'll explain this in more details when I get to the next tactic, because we're going to cover 2 today. They went from the cold outreach, 100 cold calls, to creating a poll on LinkedIn. And why do we use LinkedIn, by the way? 80% of all B2B businesses, business to business, meaning if you have a business and you're serving a business, that's business to business. All B2B, not all, 80% of all business to business leads are generated on LinkedIn as compared to all other platforms. Okay. HubSpot statistic. Now, they were doing cold outreach because of an ad. It wasn't going well. I already gave you the stats on that. Now we had them create a LinkedIn poll, and the LinkedIn poll was short and succinct. If you create a LinkedIn poll, short, succinct, so people don't need to read a couple lines. And it was a question like, what's your biggest challenge with blank? And blank was the expertise of this company. And they had 3 options. So biggest problem with blank. Now you had people that were in the demographic. They were answering a poll and saying, this is my problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you're moving people from demographic to psychographic because they're taking a poll. Now they're creating a psychographic prospect list based on your poll on LinkedIn. Cool, right? And what they did is they created a newsletter, and the newsletter was about speaking to the main need and want. Remember, I talk about marketing. If you want to attract people with marketing, you have to speak to that main need and want that builds in a way that builds confidence in their mind about you and your solution. So the newsletter was to help the industry, their target audience, with a need and want, the main need and want that they had. And so now the poll was taken, and they would call like this now with the people who took the poll. John, this is Chaz. I'm on your LinkedIn profile right now. I'm looking at the LinkedIn profile. I'm on your LinkedIn profile right now. Can I get your help? Do you see the pattern interrupt there, as opposed to calling someone cold and saying, hey, this is Joe with ABC Company? I don't know that. It's a sales call. Now it's a pattern interrupt because you're saying you're on their LinkedIn profile. Like, who is this? And say, I'm Chaz. I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, and you took my poll about filling this need or your biggest challenge you had with X. The reason I need your help, if you're willing, is we created a newsletter that goes out weekly to help people with this problem, with solutions. And we find the best information is from people in the industry to get their honest feedback on what they're trying. Would you be open for a 15-minute interview for our newsletter? Do you understand? Now they'll schedule the meeting for the newsletter. They interview them. They make a true connection. They build rapport. And in the interview, what happens? They uncover their needs. They uncover their problems. So it's easy to segue from that to, you mentioned this in the interview. This is something we may be able to help with. Would you be interested? I know we only talked about 15 minutes today. Would you be interested in talking further to see if we can help you in this area? So 6 times as many meetings. And guess what? Over 90% of them showed up for the meetings. How cool is that? That was tactic number 1. Tactic number 2. If you want to go all pro, here you go. So on LinkedIn, I talked about leverage earlier, and I talked about framing. And the poll gives you leverage because you have a community of people or a number of people who are taking it. And then you have a list of people to call on, and they're more warm than cold. Remember, psychographic versus demographic. Now, if you want to go to the next level, LinkedIn events. You have Zoom meetings. You can do live events through LinkedIn, promote them. You can do an audio event, and you can do a LinkedIn Live. So the great thing about events on LinkedIn, it's very easy to promote them. If you have a couple people on your team, let's just say 3, okay? And you each have 1,000 connections, you can invite 1,000 people a week just by going click, 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 click. And LinkedIn makes it very easy. And so out of the people you invite, not everyone registers, but the people that do register for the LinkedIn event, guess what? You just move them from demographic, because you're reaching out to people in your demographic. Now they've put themselves in the psychographic because they're putting their hand up saying, what you're talking about in this event is relevant to me because we have a challenge and a need here. Remember, for marketing to be effective, you need to know and understand that main need and want of your target audience and speak to it in such a way that builds confidence in their mind about you and your solution being able to solve their problem. So now you have a psychographic prospect list, and every time you have an event, guess what? It expands, it grows, and whatnot. Now, with events, typically you're going to have registrations, and if you do a couple thousand registrations, you can have anywhere from 25 to 150. I've seen it all over the map. When you first start, people may not know you, but it's imperative to get started. Now, you plan the event. I help people with this strategy and how to put on the event to keep people's attention with call to actions and going through the value, but not giving things away. Now you got their attention. Now they start to see you as an authority. And then during the event, I show you how to do a call to action properly so that people schedule meetings with you based on the information they're hearing, because they have confidence in you and your solution being able to solve their problem. So that's just one way. Now you have people wanting to talk with you because they just attended your live event. These are hot leads. Now, even if someone registers for the event and doesn't schedule a meeting because of your call to action, guess what? You can call those people because they registered, but they didn't schedule because they put their hand up. And so it's very easy for you to call them and schedule a meeting, send them a DM. I think it's good to do both of those, DM and meeting. Don't be afraid to talk to people. These are hot leads. John, you registered for my event. Can I get your help? Okay. And then you have a conversation and say, I talk to people in the event about a call to action. I'm providing a sales and marketing assessment. If you have 20 minutes, I'd be happy to assess your sales strategy sales process and marketing strategy. Would you be opposed to scheduling a meeting? Now you have people scheduling after the event because you're reaching out to them based on registrations who haven't even scheduled a meeting because of your call to action. How cool is that? Very important before I end today. I have a preempt the message strategy when people register and a post-event strategy message for everyone. And this engages the people, again, who have registered for the event, or for the ones who haven't scheduled meetings. And so it keeps you in communication with them and you become relevant, familiar in their mind. And now each time you have an event, your list just grows and grows and grows and grows. And within the event, it's also easy to add someone to an email. Not a cold, don't start blasting people with emails without their permission. Let people know, I have a replay of the event. Would you like to see that? Provide your best email and I'll put you to my email list. I have a newsletter. Would you like to be added to that? Please provide your best email. This is the best way. So now you can market to them directly, not just by calls and reaching out through direct messages, but because they've given you permission to add you to your email list. All right. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about technique. That's how you execute the tactic. Powerful when done right. Get ready for session number 2, which is going to be all about the second T, technique. If this resonated with you, I appreciate you subscribing and liking this video. Really important. Below is the link to my LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to connect with me there, please do. If you'd like to get my book, The B2B Blueprint to Predictable Sales, a link to that book will be below as well. See you in the next session.